All right. The Four of Pentacles being the overall, we're talking about, it's not that you're not willing to let go of something, but I think that, you know, in terms of the relationship, like the person that you're focused on, I'm going to be honest, I don't think that you're even interested in this. I think that you have something else coming through. But you're not really looking to end this situation though either. Now, some of you may be kind of holding out, wanting to see a new beginning, a new start with this person. But, you know, like I said, for some of you, I think it's an opportunity that you're not wanting to let go of. Something that could potentially make you a little bit more happy than where you're at right now. And it's not that you're not happy, you're just, I feel like you're just not interested anymore. So the Four of Pentacles, and this is on both sides though, this being the overall, is talking about things that you're both kind of like holding on to and keeping to yourselves though too. Now, as the past, you are showing the Knight of Swords. And I think that you've been very clear and very direct in communicating with this person. They are showing the Nine of Cups. That to me is saying that despite whatever you're trying to tell them, they still want to be involved with you. But if you're coming at them as the Knight of Swords, it may be that they're not being very realistic about what to expect in terms of this relationship. But there's still very much a want. You, though, move into the Four of Cups where the disinterest starts. And they're showing the Nine of Wands. To me, it feels like this person is being a little bit too persistent. That, or we're talking about you're just bored and tired of dealing with somebody who is constantly keeping up the wall around them and not letting you in. Or not letting you, you know, be a part of whatever it is that they're hanging on to. Now, I do think that it's directly related to you, though. And I think that for you, it's like, really, you're not over this yet? That's kind of what I feel like. Because you move into Temperance where you're trying to keep yourself in balance here, and they are trying to pick a fight. You know, and it's not that they're doing it in a way here where it's meant to hurt. I think that for you, you've heard this before. And I think that you've made your point very clear, but apparently they didn't get it. You know, I mean, because the Five of Wands, if you're Temperance, you're not starting that. But they're definitely not understanding you or wanting to be combative over the truth that you've already spoken. And you're not really interested in having to go through this again, but you're not going to give in to it though either. Or at least with Temperance, my God, if I could talk right. You're not trying to get involved. Now, the Ace of Cups coming out on this definitely shows a new opportunity, but it's on your side here. So are you wanting to, you know, kind of start over here and hoping for, you know, something that's going to be a little bit better, right? The Ace of Cups is perfect, you know, feeling good, right? A new emotional beginning, a new connection here, a better understanding. But I kind of get the feeling that for some of you, that opportunity may not even have to do with another person. It's just an opportunity for you to be a little bit more happy. With the Queen of Cups being in the middle of this, despite whatever is going on, I do feel like that there's still an emotional attachment, but I also feel like the other side is getting a little bit more in tune with the way that they're feeling. You know, and then there's this like not wanting to let go of the way that you feel though either. And not wanting to let go of, you know, a potential new opportunity here. Because with the High Priestess, right, like I don't think that they have a clue. I think that a part of them may know. But I do think that this is about the both of you. You know, again, because of the Four of Pentacles being the overall here. And with the High Priestess coming out, it's like the both of you know how the other person is feeling. But you don't really have the open communication to verify that. But this person did from the beginning on your side. That's why I feel like the Queen of Cups is more about what you're internalizing, right? Being a little bit more in control of your own emotions. Not necessarily like in a King of Cups type of way, but you're still emotionally available to a new beginning here. Whether that's somewhere else or whether that's with this person though, you know, I need to clarify on that. Because I feel both, but I feel more strongly it's about Libra having something else that's going to make him feel better. But that High Priestess, With Temperance and the Four of Cups, like I said, I get the feeling that whatever it is that they're not really, you know, saying in the right way or keeping to themselves, you already know what it is. I feel like you already know what that's about, and you don't really care though either. Which makes me think that, you know, this has been ongoing for quite some time. You know, and the communication may be, what the hell do you want? But I feel like they still very much want you, but they're not trying to see anything from your point of view. With that Five of Wands being there, that's like, you know, hello, do you not understand? Did you not hear what I said to you? That's the feeling that I get from that. But instead of acting that way, you're like, you know, trying to keep the balance, so to speak, but for yourself, not for the other person. And again, guys, right, like I can't stress this enough. This is a general message. You will know if this is for you and the person that you're dealing with here. But you, though, I feel like you're feeling something completely new here, but then you're also, you know, not wanting to talk about it. And I think that there may have been open discussion about it before, but I think that there's been a shutdown. And then rather than, you know, opening up and communicating about it, the both of you are just kind of keeping it under the surface, so to speak, with the High Priestess. But it's going to have to do with this Ace of Cups. Now, you know, which way are you being pulled, though, emotionally, right? Because now, before I even get there, the Page of Cups, this I feel like has to do with you feeling good and feeling new, like having some new emotions around something else that may be coming through to you. Or, like I said, for some of you, absolutely could be about a new beginning here. And where there wasn't communication about emotions, you know, I think that some of you may be having a hard time opening up, or they are, about how they're feeling. Now, here's where I feel like this is going to have to do with Libra moving on. With the Chariot, like, I do think that for some of you, you may actually be considering moving somewhere else, moving on with your own life, moving on with a new beginning. And with the Emperor on the other side here, you know, if there's not open communication, how can you have control over what is happening? You know, but this may also be about the other person here being a little bit stubborn and not seeing things from your perspective, or not wanting to. If anything, they're angry at the fact that you're not seeing things the way they want you to see it when it comes to your relationship. And clearly there's no willingness to change on that with the Four of Pentacles. Now, with the Devil, though, and then looking at the Ten of Swords, I worry that for some of you, it's not that the new opportunity here is based on something that's going to be negative for you. I don't think that that's it. I think that there are still emotions that are pulling you both ways, between having a new start for yourself or, you know, being in this relationship. But ultimately here with the Ten of Swords, I feel like this is going to be a little bit more difficult for them than it's going to be for you. But for you, I think it's about you ending things that are not healthy. Like, this relationship is not healthy. You need to move on, but you're going to have to end it before you can take off here with the Chariot. You know? Man, Libra. I want to tell you, though, too, looking at all of this, you don't want to get caught up in a negative cycle. But I think that, you know, you've already kind of been there in regards to this person. But I think that you're starting to see it now for what it is, you know, and it's like getting rid of the devil now. It's not going to be easy to do, but I do think that for some of you, you may need to move on from this person. Justice is definitely about getting fairness and balance in your love life, right? Now, for some of you, absolutely, it could be that you have recently gone through a separation and divorce, which is possible. If you're looking at a new beginning here because of the Ace of Swords, it's you needing to trust that, you know, there is still like somebody waiting for you. That's what I want to say. But the Ace of Swords is about truth, communication, trust. Now, with the Six of Cups, you're talking about you looking back at the past and how a relationship used to be, right? And like longing for that or wanting that to come back. But it may be that you're getting over how things were in the past and putting yourselves out there now because of the Six of Wands. You know, this is definitely somebody who's putting themselves out there and getting attention. Now, coming out of this, you have the Chariot and then you have the Tower. What I worry about here is, are you dealing with somebody who doesn't really know where they want to take the relationship with you, and you may have trusted them? But with the Tower, that would suggest that there is definitely deception, cheating, jealousy. You know, the Tower isn't, it's not a good thing. And I'm not feeling like this is about somebody giving a relationship a sense of direction. But for some reason, you're being asked to trust in this situation, right? And I feel like you come in that way, but I don't like that the Tower is what is there. Now, it could be here that you're moving on to a different relationship or thinking about going back to a past relationship here. But like I said, I don't know. I can't get past that because I don't feel like the Chariot is, where are you going? Where is this relationship going? Especially if, you know, there's somebody in the background who is, you know, jealous. And right now, this could be your ex-partner here, and you may be getting involved with somebody new, and they may be looking at you like, why are you doing this to me? Right? I mean, you know, but I don't feel like with the Chariot that this is really going anywhere in particular. Like, you know, I'm not seeing the long term in this situation, is basically what I'm getting. And then the Devil. All right. So when you're looking at the Page of Wands, you're talking about looking past appearances. So for some of you, I wonder, you know, this, I feel like it's both. I think that I'm talking to, you know, some Libras that are going through a divorce or have been through a divorce. But I also feel like maybe you're dealing with a person who has not exactly done what they were supposed to. I think that you are trusting in them. But I think that you're also looking past the fact that they may still have to, like, maybe complete a divorce, which is possible. Now, right, there's still definitely a lot of passion here, you know, and kind of giving into that, which is, you know, not a bad thing, right? But the problem is how it affects you in the long term here. Now, with the Lovers, I have to wonder if you're not dealing with a person here who really can't make up their mind, and that may be the issue, right? Because of somebody continuously putting themselves out there, which is funny because I've seen this before. You may be looking at how things were in the past and hoping that that would return, but yet they may not be able to make a choice between you and another person. And that's only for those of you who are dealing with somebody who has, you know, talked about getting divorced, right? Or talked about, like, ending a relationship, doing the right thing, so to speak, and then getting involved with you. Now, coming out with the Devil being there, we're talking about somebody who is doing something based on lust. All it is it's lust. There's just, you know, the want to kind of have that kind of physical connection, nothing more. That's why I said that I don't feel like this is going anywhere in the future. Like, I'm not seeing, you know, I'm not feeling like this is going to carry you through to the future. This is something that I think is going to be temporary for some of you. And that's only because somebody else is not dealing with a relationship that they may already be involved with. You know, but I don't know that you're, I don't know that what I feel like is you don't really care. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it is what it is, right? And I don't know that you're really looking at the long term, but then I also feel like for some of you, you may be really bummed out at the fact that they may say to you at some point, well, you know, I was willing to in the past, but I don't know. I have to choose. Like, this is somebody almost coming to you and saying, I'm going back to the other person. But they haven't really, though, because they're still very much involved with you. I think that you're just dealing with a person here who doesn't really know where they're even going in their own relationship. And I wouldn't say that you're being carried away by this. But I think eventually you're going to see in the end what this is really about with the Devil being there, right? It's just lust. It's just physical, and that's it. But what I worry about with the Tower here is if somebody is ultimately getting hurt in the end, you know. But what I find interesting is that you're being asked to have faith in this situation. And what I want to tell you is that maybe you need to have faith that this is going to lead you on the right path, even though this may not end the way that you want it to. You know, it just depends on how you're looking at needing to have trust and faith. You know, and it could be that you need to trust that they're going to do the right thing eventually, but when the hell is that going to be? Because I'm not seeing that coming out. And then the Queen of Pentacles. All right. All right. Now, kicking this off with the Ten of Cups, you're talking about somebody who thinks that everything's okay in a relationship, but maybe it's not. And with the Hangman, things, you know, aren't really changing in that respect. It's like waiting for somebody to do something, you know, but still being very bound to each other, but then also possibly being bound to other situations, other emotions. You know, so to me, it feels like somebody is doing this on purpose because they need to work some things out. Now, with Temperance, this could definitely be about you kind of like keeping your balance in here and, you know, being patient, but it's also the passion that's building within a relationship. And with the Five of Pentacles, you're talking about, you know, the classic romance, right? And that looks really good. Especially if you go through, you know, a period of like not really knowing or understanding what's going on with the other person. It looks like things get to a little bit of a better place. Now, with the World and looking at the Queen of Pentacles, what I feel like here is that this relationship is good where it's at. Because, you know, like I said, with the World, you're talking about a relationship that makes you feel complete, makes you feel whole, right? But that it's also, you know, this point of completion here where things in the past are no longer going to affect the future. But with the Queen of Pentacles, you're talking about somebody who feels like, you know, I can satisfy myself. They may be a little bit more focused on children, you know, taking care of kids that may be involved in the situation or whatever the case may be here. But the focus is somewhere else, you know, and I don't see it as a bad thing, but I feel like, you know, this is going to be for you. I think that you're fine with the relationship. I think that you had, you know, some problems in the past and some misunderstandings, but things definitely go a better way. But there are other things that need to be taken into consideration. But what I worry about is, you know, and it doesn't look that way, but I also get the feeling that maybe some of you are staying with the relationship because of kids. And then the Ace of Wands, and that's not bad, but I feel like, you know, and it's funny because that would be considered the fertility card, right? And then you have children, right? So are you staying together because you found out you're pregnant? If you're female, right? Males, same thing. If you found out the other person was pregnant, are you staying together? You know, or are you trying to make this relationship work, but at the same time focused on, you know, what needs to be done or what needs to be taken care of? But there's definitely a new passionate beginning. But with the Emperor being there, I think that, you know, for you, the reason why the passion is building is because you're dealing with a person here who is full of passion. You know, you may be talking about somebody who's older than you, right? Which is possible with the Emperor, but, you know, typically it's about a male figure here who is full of drive and full of passion. You know, and that could be either you or the other person here. Now, the beginning to me makes sense with the Three of Swords. You're talking about definitely, you know, the third party situation, people in cheating scenarios, right? But with the Hangman, I don't know that anybody actually does it though. You know, because I think that for some of you, maybe you couldn't follow through on it, or maybe the other person couldn't follow through on it because there's still very much a connection here with the relationship. But this may have been an issue in the past. But my thing is with the Five of Pentacles, it's like, you know, this builds back to a place where the passion is directed where it needs to be between you and your partner, right? But children, the focus is, you know, for a lot of you, may be on children coming out, you know, especially if there's pregnancy involved here. But I do feel good about the Queen of Pentacles, right? But I would say to you that, you know, if there are still issues, which there may not be anymore, right? But if there are still issues, you know, you need to be careful about sacrificing a part of yourself and a part of your own happiness to stay with a relationship because there are children involved, you know, but this may be a good thing, right? It just depends.